Hello, I'm David D. Hilster. I am a critical thinker, dissident scientist, and I'm here to tell you the truth about science, something your university professors won't tell you, the mass media won't tell you, and certainly those science evangelists won't tell you. Universities fail us in science, specifically in physics. We can't go up to a university professor and says, hey, I've got an experiment that I'd love to do. It would show Einstein's special relativity wrong. Two students of Dr. Karazani did just that for their master's thesis or for their master's work at pretty prestigious universities. And both of them were told, sit down. The professors closed their door and they said these simple words. Do you want a degree in physics? If you don't do this experiment. Our universities are not teaching people critical thinking. What are they? They are places for which you read what truth is, you're told what truth is, you're given the parameters in which you can add to that truth, but you can never come in and upset the apple cart. You can't. If you think about that, this is horrific. This is something that if I were an extraterrestrial coming down to this planet, I would say, you humans are screwed up. You don't teach critical thinking. You don't teach your students to challenge the status quo. And what happens if you do? You're drummed out. Example of after example in our organization. We have numerous people who have tried, high school teachers, university professors, people trying to get their master's and doctoral degrees. Even one gentleman, super brilliant gentleman, Bill Lucas, who was drummed out of instantly when he said and wrote a critical article on Einstein. He was being groomed by the United States to be one of the top physicists in the country. Just drummed out the moment he even made this talk. As he went down from the pony, he says, your career's done. What? And then you get people like the science evangelist, my favorite, Mr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, who laughs at the idea and the possibility that Einstein's wrong. This gets back to assumptions. The assumption is that when we find a law of the universe, it's the law forever. Even Newton stuff. Everything should be under scrutiny all the time. But we don't do that, and especially at the university level. If you go to the average person on the street and ask them, hey, if a student comes along and says, hey, I've got an experiment to show Einstein's special relativity wrong, you know what the person on the street will say? Oh, that's cool. Then they'll go to the professor, and the professor says, no, go for it. If it works, man, you're going to be real famous. They don't do that. Where are we failing? Why does this happen? It happens because we humans value our emotion more than scientific truth. We evaluate our senses more than scientific truth. We'll eat crap. We'll eat the Western diet, which is shown by Bill Gates himself in 2010. That's the #1 killer of the people in the United States is our diet. Yet, even though we know this, the people who own companies make money off of it will make us confused and stuff because they don't want us. They don't care. But yet, we have everything on the internet. You can read about it. You can read about an all plant-based diet. Find out that it is the healthiest diet out there. It's the only diet that has ever reversed major diseases. Yet, with all that information, and friends of mine, for instance, I'm on this diet, I tell them about it. Well, the person that goes, you've got a kid going to MIT and he's going to be an astrophysicist. All you care about is he went to MIT and he's an astrophysicist. You're not caring about him advancing science. If your daughter wants to become a person in cosmology, and she's going to specialize in black holes and dark energy and those kinds of things, the Big Bang. Even those are most likely all wrong, it doesn't matter because, well, they're going to be a professor and they're going to reteach this, and they teach it and over and over and over. They just repeat it. The old story I give you, and I've given this before, if you've heard it, turn it off. But Physics 101, you have the physics nerd who wants to get their position in the world, and you have the engineer who wants to really get things done, and they come across special relativity. The teacher says, and both of them are here for the first time, as you get close to the speed of light, mass increases. Teacher, says the engineering student, why? Well, because of two laws that Einstein gave us. This is a consequence of those assumptions, that light is measured the same in all reference frames, and that physics is the same in all reference frames. Of course, that's paradoxical, but who cares? So the engineers the professor's going on and blah, 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 it makes no sense. The physics kid goes, oh yeah, he's writing it down, he's memorizing what he says, he can regurgitate it. So you have the two students. What happens? Well, one regurgitates it to become and try to elevate themselves as superintelligence by trying to convince other people that he understands the paradoxes, which are impossible to understand. That's why it's a paradox. And the engineering student says, this is baloney. You guys are off your rocker. It's a good thing that particle physics doesn't give us the world anything anyways. I'm going to go be an engineer and do something real in the world. I'll build a spacecraft that will get us to Mars. And what do both of them do? They both take the tests. They both get 100 on the test because they both answer the questions according to what the teacher says the answers are. Then if you have another student, a third student, who says, wait a minute, this is all wrong, and starts to investigate this, and starts arguing with the professor, and starts looking into this, and 4 years later finds out special relativities has a redundant frame, both physically and conceptually, mathematically, that student is never supported. That student doesn't become well known for finding that problem. It gets buried. That was in the early 1940s. I'm talking about Dr. Carrazzani, Riccardo Carrazzani. That's what happened. He get into these arguments with this professor, and man, everybody would gather around, asking the right questions. And his work is exemplary. And what is he well known? No. Why? Because nerds want to be loved. They are more interested in their fame, and they're appearing to be smart, and there's nothing better to appear smart to take and throw gobbledygook of particle physics and all those mumbo jumbo that means really nothing and pretend you understand it. There's a lot of us in our organization who would love to find some billionaire or some multi-millionaire and start a new university. And that university would require you, when you looked at the Big Bang, to look at all the things that may be wrong with it and the arguments against it. And you would get a bad grade. Whoa, someone did that in Brazil. And what happened? They were going along. They weren't even a physics teacher. They're going along numbers of years later. A third of the students didn't care. A third of the students loved it. And a third of the students started turning the professor in and saying, he's teaching blasphemy. So everybody out there who believes all the stuff that you read in the university as to be true, and that thousands of universities, how could they be wrong? Well, they're all wrong because they're all repeating the same things over and not letting anybody challenge it. Our universities are failing us. And they continue to fail us, and they've been failing us for hundreds, if not thousands of years. When will we change? Students in my film, in high school, 50% of them admit that they will forego truth to get their position in a university or prestigious institution. You know, it's pretty sad. I don't even know what the answer is, but like I said, if you're watching and you happen to be a multimillionaire and you want to invest, hey, talk to me, talk to our colleagues. We'll start a new university. Yeah, it takes some money, yeah, for sure. But it's something that I want you to think about as a critical thinker. Think about that our universities don't create critical thinkers. They create people who regurgitate the same stuff they do. They make sure they don't go too far out of the boundaries. And does that advance science? No way. I don't even have to say it. Frustrating, really frustrating. It is very frustrating. But as I always say, don't take what anybody says on faith. Stay critical, stay thinking. I am your science. Last time I said evangelist. I'm not your science evangelist. I'm your science therapist. I'm here to teach you to be a critical thinker, not to agree with what I say. So, as I always say, ciao for now.